We have a detailed discussion on pro-immigrant efforts underway for the designation of Atlantic City as a sanctuary city, and we will revisit efforts at the state level to issue driver's license to immigrants. It's all here on the next Latino Motion. Join us.
Choose to get lost in the woods to gain experience in forest management.
Choose to travel through time to understand the past.
Choose to soar to pursue a career in dance.
Stockton University offers 50 high-quality academic programs, small class sizes, and affordable tuition. Choose to match your interests and talents at one of New Jersey's nationally ranked universities.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation, and Stockton University. This edition of Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is brought to you by the HD Studios at the campus of Stockton University. Funding for Latino Motion is provided by Atlanticare, healthcare you can believe in. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world. And South Jersey Gas. Welcome to Latino Motion, a weekly interview show highlighting issues impacting New Jersey's Latino community while advancing understanding of Latino cultural heritage and contributions to our society. And here is your host, Bert Lopez.
Buenos dias and welcome to Latino Motion. While the current federal administration is pushing back on the designation of sanctuary cities, there are immigration advocates who are pushing just as hard to support them. Joining me is Cristian Moreno to discuss efforts underway to support sanctuary cities. Kristen, welcome to Latino Motion.
Thank you for having me, Bert.
So tell me a little bit. You are an advocate, obviously, for immigration. And tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got started in this.
This actually started early on. I was born to undocumented parents in an undocumented community within Atlantic City. So from the get-go, I've experienced firsthand the problems that immigrant parents have to deal with in this country. And it's always resonated with me. Very early on, my mom sat me and my older brother down, and she explained how she came to this country. And from that day forward, I knew my sole mission in life was to advocate for my parents, to advocate for the community, until they get the rights that they deserve. So.
Now, we know that the federal government is certainly pushing pretty hard against designation of sanctuary cities, yet you're helping an effort to try to name Atlantic City as a sanctuary city. Yes. Tell me why now, and aren't you afraid that there's going to be additional pushback?
Absolutely. The reason why now is because the federal administration, since day one of last year, has continually attacked the immigrant communities across this country. On January 17th, the current administration issued an executive order 13768, which was an all-out attack on the immigrant communities. With that executive order, it threw out any previous administration's guidance on how to handle the immigrant system here in America.
Let's talk a little bit about those guidance. And certainly there wasn't deportation, for example, of children and parents, basically. They were after mostly criminals.
Yeah. So with the previous administration, they had a guidance that said the priority number one are, let's say, for example, criminals, people that commit felonies, that commit major misdemeanors. Unfortunately, now this guidance, no one is exempt, and everyone is now considered a priority simply for being an immigrant. So that does include children, that does include mothers who have no criminal record, who have from day one just came to this country to have a family, to live the American dream.
So pursuing a designation, a sanctuary city, doesn't that bring problems in terms of getting funding from the federal government?
Yes. Well, part of that executive order was also an attack on sanctuary cities. Besides the priority levels, it increased the amount of ICE agents that they wanted to have on the ground. It increased the amount of immigration judges that they wanted so that they could clear this backlog of immigration cases. And it also tried to strip these federal sanctuary cities of their federal funding. Now, fortunately, throughout the last year, there have been federal court cases in San Francisco and Philadelphia that have sued this administration for trying to take away their federal funding, and they won it in court. And basically the court rulings state that states are not required to enforce federal immigration law.
Which is a very, very important point. And we want to talk about the additional efforts that you're working on to advocate and also to bring attention to this issue and ultimately get sanctuary city designation in Atlantic City. We're going to continue the discussion. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion. Welcome back to Latino Motion. Joining me once again is Cristian Moreno as we continue to discuss sanctuary city designation and what does that mean. Exactly the question I want to ask you. What does it mean? What does the designation sanctuary city mean?
Right. So the reason that I wanted to talk about sanctuary cities is that people often generalize what a sanctuary city is. They think it's a blanket protection, that it protects all type of immigrants for all different type of reasons. And that's not the truth. Sanctuary cities are very specific protections, and they actually dictate how a city uses its resources. Not to be specific, one of the things that a sanctuary city does is tell the local police department that they cannot work with ICE in terms of helping them with immigration raids, in terms of sharing city resources, sharing city data, and that way we protect community trust with immigrants. That way immigrants know that the police force in their community is one that is with them and not necessarily the one helping to deport them.
And as an advocate, immigration advocate, you're trying to accomplish this, particularly right now in Atlantic City, but there are other cities in New Jersey who have taken on this designation.
Yeah, so several other cities have taken on the term of sanctuary city or fair and welcoming city. Some of those cities include Newark, Jersey City, Elizabeth. They tend to be up north where the immigrant populations are a lot larger. Another one in the south is actually Camden. Camden has taken the term and embraced the term because of the large immigration population they have. And all these cities have done this because of the need to protect immigrants. One of the things sanctuary cities also do is tell the local court system that if they were to receive an ICE detainer, so if they were to receive this document that tells them to hold this immigrant in custody for whatever reason they're in, it could be an unpaid parking ticket, it could be any type of low-level misdemeanor, any type of tell a person to end up in the court system, it tells them that these people not to keep them there. So it offers a kind of a protection, almost
so
like.
Essentially, the local court is not communicating with the federal court system to detain someone that was there for a minor offense.
Absolutely, that's exactly what it is. And we need that kind of trust with our court system. If people are to appear in court, if they want to pay their tickets, we need that assurance that immigrants will not get deported for a broken taillight, for an unpaid parking ticket. But unfortunately, that's the scenario in several other states, if not in this state.
So the adoption of the sanctuary city, that is different in each city, or is there a specific resolution that's pretty common among all these cities?
Right. So it can differ from city to city. The general trend lately is that we've seen the term fair and welcoming city being used. Okay. And the most recent example was in Hoboken. On that mayor's first day in office in 2018, he issued an executive order claiming that Hoboken was a fair and welcoming city. And lately we've seen the policies get a little bit more progressive. So they include data keeping record ordinances, meaning that the police departments will keep track of how often they receive requests from ICE to work with them. They include anti-discrimination clauses where the police department cannot discriminate on the basis of looks.
So there's certainly a lot into this, and we want to explore a little more of the details. Right. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion.
Thank you. Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation. Join us online at www.latinomotion.tv. Find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We encourage your comments and contributions for show topics.
Welcome back to Latino Motion. I am with immigration advocate Cristian Moreno to discuss the process of Sanctuary City designation for Atlantic City. And I know there is a process you have to follow, and I think we kind of alluded to the fact that the first thing is you do need a resolution from City Council, correct?
Absolutely. The beauty of the legislative process at the local government is that regardless of what the federal administration wants, we have the power to dictate how we run our city. And so with this, we have been meeting with city council members in private to see what their initial thoughts are. And we will be presenting in front of the city council later this month in February to show them the benefits that sanctuary cities offer in terms of protection for immigrants, in terms of allowing immigrants to live their life freely in the city.
Let's talk about costs. Is there a cost associated with this?
Absolutely not. In fact, this actually saves the city. Because sanctuary cities dictate how cities use their resources, this would tell them to not use their resources to work with federal agencies. So in effect, it actually saves the police and municipal services a good amount of money by telling them not to work with this department.
So what does your outreach tell you about what kind of support you could expect from the city?
Yeah. So based off my initial outreach, we do expect to get a lot of support from the city. Thankfully, Atlantic City has always been, there for progressive values, and we expect full support from the city council, from most of the city council. And we, through our initial talks with the mayor, we hope that he is on board as well. Immigration advocates will be meeting with the city council and the mayor in the future, just to hash out any details with legislation, stuff like that. But we will be using the resolution used in other cities like Newark, like Hoboken, the same progressive policies. So if other cities can do it in New Jersey, then we should be able to do it in Atlantic cities.
Well, what's been the experience of the other cities? You indicated, I believe there's 13 other cities that are designated in the state of New Jersey. Absolutely. Have there been any pushback in terms of the designations, any protests against this?
You see that in some of these cities where the immigrant population is a little bit smaller. There was some pushback in Red Bank. It didn't pass on its first attempt to designate itself as a fair and welcoming city, just because the council there was split. I believe it was 3-3. But in the cities where there's a lot of immigrants, a lot of immigrant communities who are advocating for themselves, who are raising their voice, you see this pass with full support from the council and the mayor.
Yeah, I know that you referred to it, and some of the cities are referring it to us welcoming and friendly city instead of a sanctuary city. Right. Do you think that helps in terms of putting the stigma away from sanctuary city? Absolutely.
So now the official designation that cities like Hoboken have done are designate themselves as fair and welcoming cities, as opposed to sanctuary cities. And in large part, that's an effective strategy that the immigrant community is doing in order to not draw as much attention from the federal administration. Now, the federal administration is always keeping their eye out on which cities are newly declaring themselves as sanctuary cities. So this way, the fair and welcoming term is not as divisive, and it's a little bit more informational.
Cristian, we want to talk about how other folks could get involved in this advocacy process and support this effort. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion. Welcome back to Latino Motion. We discuss advocacy opportunity in support of fair and welcoming city designation for the city of Atlantic City with Cristian Moreno. And that's exactly what you're looking for, is support for this advocacy effort. So tell me a little bit about the process to get involved.
Yeah. So even though we've already received initial support from city council and the city government, this support needs to come directly from the community. There needs to be a community uprising, so to speak. And what I mean by that is that normal people who aren't involved in the political process need to be aware of what's going on. They need to be civically engaged. They need to show up and show that they have a voice in the city, and not be afraid to speak their voice.
I know you have a rally planned.
Exactly.
The date of the rally is Monday, February the 19th,
Yes.
which is President's Day.
Right.
It's going to be held at Lady Star of the Sea. And what kind of turnout are you looking to have?
Yes. So we're looking from a very big turnout from the community, and we'll be publicating our rally all through the month of February up until the rally to get a really a large turnout from the community, which will be indicative of the Latino community and its population size in Atlantic City.
You're hoping that the voices of the Latino community is definitely heard.
Yeah.
And you did mention that you do have some support right now. Obviously, the resolution hasn't been presented yet, hasn't been voted on, and certainly by that time, by February 19th, most city council members who had opportunity to take a look at that, and you're making that encouragement to support this bill.
Absolutely. Like I said, even though we've received some initial support, we want the support of the entire city council. And so that's why we want to have this rally. We want to show city council that there is a community that needs their help and that is willing to fight for it. And so we think if city council sees that, they will have no choice but to pass this ordinance.
So if someone wants to get involved, obviously, we'll put up a number to call up on the screen.
Absolutely.
So what do you think in terms of the mayor? Is the mayor supportive of this venture?
So I have the opportunity to speak to the mayor, and he has said, he ran on a campaign of unity. And so he has shown support for this. But regardless of what the mayor thinks, we want the immigrant community to stand up for itself so that we are able to tell the mayor, you need to be here with us. And so this is exactly what this movement is about.
And I know the mayor's been on the show, and I'm sure he'll be supportive of this effort. So I wish you a lot of luck. One of the things that we want to take a look at is another immigration advocacy effort that's taking place in New Jersey in support of immigrants' driver's license for the New Jersey immigrants. So we want to come back and take a look at that. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion. Welcome back to Latino Motion. We're now going to revisit another pro-immigrant effort that's underway here in New Jersey to issue driver's license for immigrants. Let's listen in. While the nation struggles with uncertainty about immigration reform, advocates here in New Jersey are considering a bold measure to authorize the issuance of driver's license to residents regardless of their immigration status. Joining me are two advocates who are here to talk about the subject. Gentlemen, welcome to Latino Motion.
Well, Mr. Lopez, it's my pleasure to be here. My name is Eliu Galtiel, and I'm the administrator of a volunteer group statewide, driver's license for New Jersey immigrants. And we are an educational advocacy volunteer organization trying to prepare people for this great event that we're going to be pushing now because now we have a governor elect who has committed to sign the legislation. All we need to do now is get the legislators to put the bill through the process.
And you've been organizing for a while.
We've been organizing, educating for over 2 or 3 years through small groups, through churches, and throughout community groups.
So why is the issuance of driver's license to undocumented, if you will, why is that so important?
This is extremely important because I witnessed myself so many people that talk to me, they want to take their children to school, to the hospital, to many places, going from point A to B, to their jobs, and people are risking every day because they have to drive. They have to, even if they are sent to court. And we're talking about more than 500,000 people, probably about 300,000 would qualify, and they would be able to go through the right process, like Americans want, like everybody wants, and they want to do the right thing, go through registration, having an insurance, testing, oral, written, and all of that. But in the end, this is not just about immigrants, this is about all Americans, all New Jerseyans that want public safety. We have so many hit and runs, so many people who are victims, American citizens, residents, immigrants. Sometimes many tragedies have happened. And sometimes you wonder, what do? We have two choices. Do we hate the immigrant, or do we simply think about a solution. I was talking actually with an American citizen from Action Together New Jersey. It's an advocacy group. And I always, try to put my posts about the driver's licenses for immigrants, and she was telling me with their neighbors when she was hit and run, and people reasonably, they have fear and they get desperate and they just leave the scene.
It's not just about perhaps the fear, but there's also an economic benefit as well,
And the
correct?
insurance.
Exactly.
For the insurance, for the purchasing of vehicles, and other.
And just imagine, there's Gonzalo says there's over 500 that are here, 300 qualify, but many more. You're talking about children, grandchildren getting around, but the economic impact of the purchase of vehicles, the paying of taxes, registration, the insurance industry, and that is going to benefit New Jersey greatly. But as Gonzalo says, our biggest push here is safety. It's important for us to know who's on the road and that we're all practicing safe measures, that we all take the same test, the same book, and we want to tell people that that all the immigrants want to do the same thing. So we want to be able to have the authority to apply for a driver's license.
Great advocacy effort at the state level and certainly locally through you, Kristen. Thank you so much for joining us here on Latino Motion.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you at home once again for joining us here on Latino Motion.
Choose to get your feet wet, to learn more about protecting our environment. Choose to read minds, to understand the human brain.
Choose to get your hands dirty, to create a masterpiece.
Stockton University offers 50 high-quality academic programs, small class sizes, and affordable tuition. Choose to match your interests and talents at one of New Jersey's nationally ranked universities.
Funding for Latino Motion is provided by Atlanticare, healthcare you can believe in. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world. And South Jersey Gas.